All right, everybody, welcome back to the 1% podcast. I'm very excited for this one because I have watched this incredible woman for the last year now, going through preps, going through all these roller coasters of what 2022 has thrown at us. And also, Happy New Year, everyone. First podcast of the new year. I'm excited to have Hannah on the podcast. How you doing, my love?
Hello, and thank you so much for having me on. It's long awaited. I think we planned this about 3 weeks ago, but now I'm the first of 2023, so it's a win.
It's way better then.
Yeah, exactly. A great intro. But yeah, no, I'm really good. Here in the UK at the moment, in the lovely storm that it is today. But
I thought you were going to say I thought you were going to say Costa.
Costa too. Good old Costa. Tastes awful.
Amazing. But if anyone doesn't know you and things like that, I don't know, if you got in a taxi and someone says, "Hey, what do you do for a job? What do you do? Who is Hannah?"
So I hate when people say, my name's Hannah. I am a bikini competitor, because that's not all there is to me, but I am, and it's a big part of my life. So I am an NPC bikini competitor. I'm a female coach, an online coach, much like yourself. I only started coaching about nearly 3 years ago, two years ago. So yeah, it has become my life. Between competing and coaching, it's I feel like I'm, living my dream life at the moment. as you kind of probably feel yourself, it's kind of all from where I started about 3 years ago, to come to here. It's just kind of, you look back at it sometimes and just okay, wow, this is what I always wanted to do.
Yeah. I think especially I don't know why, maybe because it's New Year and things like that and Christmas, you reflect a lot more. But it's so true. Sometimes you just have to we live, especially us, our jobs are kind of this social media realm and all this sort of stuff. And it's very easy to be like, am I actually fucking getting anywhere? Am I actually moving forward? And vice versa. I think if we look at it from your bikini, competitive career, you can look around and be like, am I going to fucking make it? How many bikini girls are out there? Or do you know what I mean? It's that quote unquote thing. And am I progressing? Am I getting there? But I think you said, it's looking back, be 3 years ago where I was, 2 years ago, a year ago where I was. And if you can be oh, I've made small improvements, I'm getting there. That's all that matters.
And that's what you always have to think, because it can be very easy to get, there's so many people, well, I suppose what we surround ourselves with, people that are competing, people that are coaches, and it's so easy to get very caught up in just, constantly wanting more from your competitive career, wanting more from your business. And it can get overwhelming at times. It definitely can. And I have found that, definitely in the past few weeks, even for myself, I've found it can get very much on top of you, but it only actually takes you to actually look back and be okay, where was I 2-3 years ago? I was working a job I wasn't happy in. I was doing things that really I did not enjoy, and now I am. So you just always have to be grateful for that, and just, as cliche as it sounds, just focus on your journey, because you're always comparing yourself to, especially you being out there. And I found it when I was out there, you're always comparing yourself to people who are maybe further along, have been doing something for years, or competing for years, or, in a business for years. And it can be very easy to be okay, well, they're doing the same thing, so I'm going to compare myself to them. And, they're much further ahead. But it is just always important to step back and be okay, well, if you take the growth you've had in the past 2-3 years of what you're doing, and multiply that by another 2-3 years, you're going to be in that position. So it's just, it is important to always just be grateful for where you are.
It is, isn't it? Because sometimes you just you look at it and think, fuck, if I lost my health and things like that, what would I have?
Exactly.
I mean, exactly. Just, it sounds so cliche, but not enough people do it. Just to be right, actually, I want X, Y, and Z. But I'm but look at what you've got right now.
Exactly.
So, but no, I want to strip it back a little bit for you. Is obviously, I guess, let's bring it back to kind of the upbringing. Obviously, born and raised in Ireland, right? That's all I know.
Irish gal.
So let's start from there. Let's start from kind of, I don't know, kind of high school, first year in high school sort of thing. Where's family home and things like that? And what were you like back then and stuff? What was home life?
So we in Ireland call it different things. So we have our primary school, then we have secondary school, and then what you call university, we call college. So just in case.
We have that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, I grew up in a little town called Tumwell House in Ireland. I'm sure if any of my clients are listening, I have some there, and they'll all be oh my God, because nobody knows it. It's a tiny little countryside town. I grew up there. I then moved in literally just down the road into Naas, which is another town. I went to school there. My ambitions growing up through school was I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. I don't care what I do. I'm going to be a doctor. And throughout school, you know, I was very much a nerd as such. I was a nerd of the family. Not so much a nerd as in like I was very smart, but I studied hard. You know, I was in school before school study, after school study, night school study. If there was a study available that you could sit in school, I was there. Sometimes if there was a class I didn't like Irish, basically we had to do Irish, and I wasn't counting it into my points basically for our leaving cert. I'd actually skip the class, and like, you know, people would leave school to just what we called Mitch school, which is like just
like
right and take,
but
I would bunk off to go to the library to study for my other ones. You know, I was very much like very set on it. So I did very well in my leaving cert, but I was just off the points for you know, medicine. I think the max points you could get is 600, which you need for medicine. I got 530, which is very much, you know, I think the average in Ireland right now is like 400, which, you know, you need to get A's in a lot of your subjects. So I went on and did biomedical science, which is kind of a step below it. It's basically like lab work, but you can move up from biomedical science to medicine. So that was my plan of action. I was going into biomedical science. I was going to do that and then move on and do medicine. So you only had to do another like 3 years, and this course was 4 years. So it wasn't too far off, but I got into biomedical science, and I didn't quite know where it was going to lead me. All I knew was I was going to go on and be a doctor from it, but it actually led you into like labs, which were like hospital labs or research or that kind of thing. And I did really, really enjoy it. I completed the 4 years there and went into an immunology lab. So I did a lot of work with HIV, multiple myeloma, allergy, immune diseases, basically anything autoimmune. And I worked in a place in Dublin, which is like the capital of Ireland. I'm sure everyone knows. And I lived in Dublin, and I did that. I was in there for I think three or 4 years. And that's kind of where was actually while I was in college that I started kind of fell into competing as such, which is a different story. But basically, you know, I found how much I loved this, how much I loved being in the gym, and how much I loved, like at the time, like where I was in the gym, I was like, you know, when I was speaking about it, or like instead of researching things on immunology and things I should be doing on that side of things, I was researching things on like training, on nutrition, on all of that kind of thing. And I was like, I absolutely love this. And, you know, like a lot of it kind of, it did cross over as such in terms of like physiology and things like that, and being able to research papers. But that's generally what I found myself doing, just constantly like researching that kind of thing. And, you know, instead of studying for what I should be, I was doing all of this. And I realized like I absolutely loved it. But then kind of COVID kicked off. Basically, it feels like that was so recent, but it really wasn't.
I know, yeah. It feels like it was. It doesn't feel written off the 2 years, but it all just blended. Yeah,
it all just blended. I'm like, when did that start? Because I was still in my first job, but basically COVID kicked off, and because I was in immunology, which is like, you know, antigen testing and things, we were kind of put into kind of like they started looking at like antigen testing basically. So anything we were currently doing was kind of, it wasn't put to the wayside because we still had like, you know, tests and things to do for any patients and things, but anything else was kind of put on hold, and it was all just COVID constantly in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I just thought at that stage, I was like, this isn't what I want to do. Yeah. You know, I didn't see much progression in it. Going on to do medicine after spending time in the hospital, I saw kind of what the doctors did, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. You know, it's a very stressful job. Yeah. It doesn't, you know, it didn't appeal to me when I actually worked with them and saw, you know, we were working very closely alongside them. And I just constantly kept thinking, you know, I want to do something in the field of, you know, at this stage I had competed twice. Yeah. And I knew that's like what I loved, but I didn't really know as such, like what I knew I wanted to do. You know, I knew I would absolutely love to like coach and things like that. So COVID kicked off basically, and I decided I was moving home to Naas because I was paying extortionate rent in Ireland. I wasn't making enough money to be able to save anything, or sorry, in Dublin. Yeah. I wasn't making enough money to be able to save anything, to even do anything that I wanted to do. And I was like, I'm going to move home. I'm going to go into a lab at home. So there was a hospital basically in Mace. So I said, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to live at home for a year and I'm going to save and I'm going to do what I want to do. I went into that job in the middle of COVID. Again, it was very similar, you know, doing things to do with COVID. It was all masks. It was all everything. And I was in there three weeks. I was like, I can't do this. I don't care what happens. I'm out. And I went in and I just handed my notice and I said, I'm done. I'm out of here. And it was very much, you know, God, what are you going to do? You know, how is that going to work? I was like, I don't care, you know? And I think COVID made a lot of people realize that it's like, shit could hit the fan at any minute, you know, it really could. So why not just do what you want to do? Like, what is the worst that can happen? And it was very much like, how are you going to get a house? How are you going to pay a mortgage? How are you going to, you know, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And I was like,
worrying about all the pointless
you
shit.
know. And at that time, I actually then was like, right, I'm out of this country. And I moved to, handed my notice. And, you know, I had very little money behind me, but I had a very supportive family, especially my dad, who honestly, every step, anything I said I was doing, my mum was a little bit like, Hannah, what are you doing? But my dad was very much like, just go for it. What's going to go wrong? And I moved to London. And I literally was working in a gym there. And at that point, I was like, I don't know, I was kind of behind the desk and things, you know, because
Which gym are you at?
Muscleworks.
Oh, okay, right,
yeah. And I love being in the gym all the time, but I just kind of was like, this isn't what I want to do, you know. This isn't, well, obviously, you know, but it was kind of the next step. And then COVID lockdowns happened again, and I was like, I was still in a position, you know, I had an online business, but it wasn't in a position that was supporting me, you know, enough to step away from something, and especially because I'd left the job early, so it wasn't like I had a massive amount of savings behind me. But COVID kicked off again and the gym kind of closed, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to Spain. And I went to Marbella during the lockdowns because it was quite open there.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't tell any of my family or anything. I remember I got there.
Okay. I think this is, because I think I probably heard about or started following you around that time period.
Yeah.
Maybe just before. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Because I was actually thinking of going to Dubai, but I was on my own at that stage. And I was like, I don't know if I can, you know, I'd never been. And I was just like, Spain, Marbella was somewhere we had a family house growing up and we were there every summer. So somewhere that was quite familiar to me. I knew the gyms, I knew everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to Spain. And I remember arriving in Marbella and just sending my family a picture and was like, I'm in Spain. They were like, what? And honestly, that's where, you know, as scary as that was to just get up and go with very little behind me. I was like, I kind of felt like, obviously I was kind of at a dead end in London, and I got there, and that's really when, you know, you're kind of, it's not a make or break because, you know, it's you know, I wasn't going to absolutely, you know, hit the bottom, but it was at a point that I was just like, right, and I just put myself in a better environment that I was really able to start building my business, and that's really when it kind of kicked off. And, you know, I realized, I was like, it was kind of a pinch me moment. I was like, I'm in a country that I know I'm able to work. I'm in a really good environment. I can do what I want to do. And was like, as scared as I was to do that, it was like that's what pushed me forward. And it kind of made any of the moves I made after that less scary. You know, that was definitely one of the ones that I was like, this could go very wrong. But honestly, that's kind of when it kicked off. And then I came back to the UK and then obviously Dubai. And I think we know the story from there. So I've been in Dubai for, it was nearly a year. Back in the UK for a little bit now, and then we'll go back to Dubai hopefully by the end of this year, because obviously John is competing. So that is where we're at now.
There you go. I guess kind of like bring it back. Why did you? Do you think it's like it's your personality? Why did you study so hard, like at a young age? Not many people, not like kids would bunk off. Like 95% of kids would bunk off. Why did you go and study extra? Why did you want to be a doctor? Why? What was the why behind it all? Do you know?
Why? I suppose I always wanted to do well for myself. You know, I always wanted to be able to say I did this for me, you know, and I did. I got here because I did the work, you know, and that's kind of followed me through everything. It's through competing, through what I do now. I've always wanted to be like, you know, I'm the one that put in the work and I'm the one that got me here. I never wanted to be in a position that was like, I didn't study, so now I'm in a job I don't like, and you know, I'm stuck, you know. So I always wanted to be in charge of basically my own life. And to me at that time, being a doctor was what I wanted to do, and this was what it was going to take. So you know, that's what I did. And as I said, I think that's kind of what's followed me through, whatever it took, whatever it takes mentality is
Yeah.
hardcore as that sounds.
Are your parents like that, or like siblings, anything like that?
To be honest, no. Well, to be fair, my siblings, I have one brother and one sister. They're very much, we're in a similar position that they've moved. My sister lives in Canada now, so she's kind of followed what she wanted to do. They're both in just, I wouldn't say normal jobs, like a job they do enjoy, but they weren't as studious. My brother was sent off to boarding school because he just wasn't as studious at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, like they didn't do badly, but he wasn't that into school. My sister wasn't that into school. I was kind of the studious one, but at the same time, you know, they're both doing something they enjoy. They both lived in different countries for years and things, but I think this was just kind of off the, I don't know where it came from as such.
No, it's interesting because it's like sometimes it doesn't, I think it's something you just, I don't know, maybe it is, but you were kind of like it before fitness. Do you know what I mean? Before kind of,
yeah.
So it's interesting to be like, because obviously those skills being like, I'll take all responsibility and I want to do this for me. Obviously, most people learn from kind of fitness, if that makes sense. But you kind of went into it already one step ahead of the game. And I think that's definitely something that I've obviously watching your journey and things like that, and watching your prep and all that sort of stuff is like, it's something that I noticed. I'm like, she just does it. Like, there's like, it's one of those things where people are just like, she just takes action every day. Like there's no, it's like straight away, you're up at 4 a.m. You're doing all, like, you're a morning person, you fucking get everything done, things like that. Like you are just boom, 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 nonstop, even when you think you're chilled.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to be like, well, where does that come from? Do you know what I mean? It's just an interesting thing.
It sounds weird, but do you ever watch like those programs like that talk about like the planet and the earth and space and everything?
Yeah.
And you see that like we're such, I don't want to say irrelevant, but we are still relevant things on the world. Like genuinely, we're little things on the planet. And it's like, do you want to get to like basically your deathbed and be like, look back in your life and be like, I'm so glad I worked that job I bloody hated for 50 years, and you know, had a family that I didn't want, and settled down in a house that I didn't want, and was in a relationship that I didn't want. It's like, you're gonna, like, as morbid as it sounds, you're gonna die anyway. So it's like, you are such an irrelevant thing in the world. So why don't you just go do what you know you want to do, and go actually live a life that you're gonna get to that age and be like, bloody hell, I've had an unreal life. I've done everything that I wanted to do. I traveled, I've worked the job I loved. And you know, it's like the thought of getting to that age and looking back and being like, that was shit, is scary, you know? And I think that's the way a lot of people don't really look at it, because they're like, I'm working this job because I need to pay my bills, and I need to, and that's completely understandable. And if you're happy doing it, but that's not the life I wanted to live, you know? No. And I always just thought of it like that. Like, I just don't, we're just so small and irrelevant. You're not, like, obviously, you know, you have family and friends.
It's so true, but it's so true. At the end of the day, we're just particles. Do you know what I mean? On the grand scheme of things, we're just particles and fucking water, whatever you want to do it. And at the end of the day, like, but that is just reality, isn't it? Like, you could look at it from like, I want to achieve wealth. I'm like, but guess what? We're all born with nothing, and we're all going to die with nothing. So the in-between bit is however you want to do.
Yeah. And it's like, what can go wrong? It's just like, just do it. Like, you're not like, you know, as I said, there's people that maybe want to just live a comfortable life. They want to settle down, get a mortgage, get a family, and that's really what makes them happy. I'm absolutely all for it if that is, but it was just never for me. It was never, I never wanted to look back, and the thought of that actually scared me more than anything. So yeah, that's that's
no, but it's lovely to hear sometimes, because honestly, the reason I do these podcasts as well is obviously to talk to people that are very like-minded. And sometimes it's almost reassurance, like if anyone listens to this and they feel like they want to hunt and progress in life, and they feel like the outsider because you don't want to save for a house, and you don't want kids at 30 and all this sort of stuff, like, to reassure you that we're the same. Do you know what I mean? There is people out there like you.
Exactly. And I think when, like, when you kind of surround yourself with people that are in, like, when I was in my job, you know, everyone was very happy they were in their job, and they had a partner, and they're saving for a mortgage, and they wanted a family. And when you're surrounded by that all the time, it's like, as you said, like, you do feel like an outsider, and you're like, I don't want that. And that actually scares me. You know, I don't want to go down that route. And then when you kind of mention you don't, it's like, what are you going to do? How are you going to save for your mortgage? And do you not want kids soon? Or, like, you know, how are you going to afford that? And do you not need a house? And it's like, you know, it's actually okay to not want that, you know. And I think now, like, maybe a good few years ago, that was very much the norm, but there is more and more people doing what we do and just following. Maybe it's now what I'm surrounding myself with, so I see it more, but there is a lot more people in the world, especially after COVID, kind of realizing that, yes, you just need to go after what makes you happy, because anything could happen at any time. And if you don't, it's just, you're going to get, as I said, get to that age and just be like, oh God, I wish I did that. Why didn't I?
I think that's the thing, is obviously what's nice is that you kind of saw COVID from behind the scenes, I guess, as well, from like a medical field and things like that. And I sometimes feel a little bit like, I thought, okay, cool, we needed kind of that COVID period to change us. We all needed that change in our lives, and lots of people did, right? Lots of people changed their careers, they moved out of cities and all this sort of stuff. But I feel like we're kind of going back to the old ways a little bit. I feel like people are like almost forgot about it, and I don't know, like I thought 2 years of like, fuck, I need to really focus on my health has almost come down to, my health's not really a priority at the moment. And you're like, are you fucking serious? You see what happened like for 2 years and things like that. I feel like we're slipping back into that old humanity way, which was kind of killing us off slowly as a race. And I'm 100%. Like, and now we're seeing it more so from like, oh, the economy, and everyone's fucking worried about this sort of shit. I'm like, what? Like, we can't control this shit. So I'm like, just crack on and do you. And I don't know, I've got quite an aggressive opinion about it all, but it's just, I don't know. I think when you were kind of in that kind of, I guess that COVID period being in the medical industry, what was it? I guess it's so hard to say what was it like, but like, what was the atmosphere kind of going around and things like that, like from the inside, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like it was just kind of very constant. Like if you're basically on the outside of the hospital, not that you can ignore it, but you can try to get on with your life and just kind of work around it. Whereas this was going into it every day, and it was just constantly COVID. What's next? How many patients do we have? What tests are coming out? Keeping up to date with it. And it was just like it all just came down on top of you, and it was like constantly like in big jackets and masks and just being careful 24/7, and just going into like, you didn't know what was going to hit you today. You didn't know, was the whole hospital going to be taken down, because we didn't quite know what it was at the time. And we didn't know what it could do. And especially like being in the hospital, you were obviously going to be surrounded by a lot of it. And it was, I wouldn't say scary, but it was just like a lot of anxiety nearly every day. You're waking up like, what is it going to be today? And it just, it was scary at the start, but it just felt like it was just constant. You couldn't escape it, it just felt like a lot.
Damn, fuck that. Screw that. And I guess kind of going into kind of when you kind of quit like the medical field and things like that, you obviously went to London, did your time in London. I was very much the same. London just sucked my soul towards the end. I was like, I can't do the city life anymore. And then you did the whole, I'm just going to go to the seaside sort of thing. So when did, I think the nice thing is obviously what's lovely to see now is how incredible yours and John's relationship is. When did you guys meet? Was that in Spain, or how did you guys meet and things like that?
So the classic, he slid into my DMs.
Oh, did he? Well done.
How does anyone meet these days?
True.
Straight into the DMs. It's always the answer. It's never, we just met in a park.
But it worked. So that's the most important thing.
It does work. Well, it didn't work for months. It didn't work.
Oh,
so basically, I think I was in London at the time, and he was kind of in my DMs, as he would be. But I was very much on that, strong, independent woman vibes at that time. And I didn't want anything, I had relationships previously that were with kind of like bodybuilders as such, and I just never saw it working, because it just, I was kind of in the mindset that like, bodybuilding consumes you, and if I'm to be with someone that's my life, a lot of people say it works together, but I was like, it just becomes too much, because it was a lot in previous relationships when, it very much was consuming, and just, it didn't work. So I was just out of the field of, I'm not looking for a bodybuilder. I don't want anything. I'm moving to Spain. And he was just kind of very, very persistent. And as his friends tell me now, he was on his phone 24/7, trying to think of ways to slip back in there. And when I wouldn't reply, get back in there again.
Consistency. It's what
Yeah,
it always pays
was,
off.
it was the most persistent I've ever seen someone in my life. And his friends are telling me, he was like, he used to sit there like, I'm getting this girl. I've never met her. Well, I think he kind of walked into the gym one day when I was working there, but other than that, he had never met me. And he was just like, I don't care who else. It's going to be her. So basically I was in Spain and he said, you know, we were kind of speaking still. I still was given the, you know, I'm a strong, independent woman vibes. And he said that, you know, he'd come out to Spain, and it was mid-COVID. And I was like, yeah, I was like, sure, come out to Spain. Not really thinking he would.
Yeah.
Next thing he had sent me flights. Like, he was coming to Spain. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was a bit taken back at the time, because I was just like, that's a lot. You know, we've
Yeah.
never met
So
before.
calling his bluff big time. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, we'd never met before, and he's coming out to Spain to meet me in the mid-COVID. How does he even think he's going to get out here? Because I even struggled to get out there, you know.
Yeah.
But he got out there, and when he came out, I was still very much like, this is weird, you know. And then, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And we obviously spent time together when he came out. I think he made for a good few days. We, you know, had dates as such, maybe went for dinner and things like that, but it was really nothing. He left, and I actually, it's really funny because I showed him the other day. I wrote out, he had texted me being like he had a nice time and things, and I wrote out a message. You know the way sometimes you have to think about a message, you write it in your notes first.
Yeah.
So I had done that, and it was a big message, basically like, you know, I'm not in a position to be in a relationship right now. I don't want anything. I'm very much trying to figure what I'm doing out. You know, I'm just getting my business off the floor. And, you know, I just want to be by myself. And I had this message in my notes, and I actually showed him like a little while ago. And I was like, look, remember this message? So I sent him that, but he was just not giving up. He was just like, okay, whatever. So basically, I was in Spain. I was actually with like two friends that were Irish as well, that were very much into the gym and training as well. And they decided that they were going to go back. So I said I was going to go back. My dad actually lives in the UK. So I said I was going to go back to the UK. And when I was going back, I was like, right, I need a car. So I had said to him I was looking for a car, and he was like, I'll do it. I'll find you a car. So this was his new way. So he had actually found me a car in the UK, or in London. So I had to go to London to get it, to see him. But at that stage, I was kind of like, after talking to him after, I was like, he does seem different. You know, he doesn't seem like the general bodybuilder. He's definitely not the same. You know, he's not.
Yeah.
He's very chill. So basically, long story short, I went down to London. I met him. He gave me my car, and I actually was going to stay with my dad for a little bit until I got a place and things. And within like 2 weeks, I went down and moved in with him.
No way, that's insane.
And we've lived together ever since. I don't think we were actually in a relationship when I went down. I don't think I planned to actually move in as such. I was going down for like a week or two to see him, and then I ended up staying there. We ended up in a relationship, and you know.
No way, that's insane. Because how long's that now? That's what. How long have you been?
Oh no, September we kind of actually were in a relation. I moved in August last year, so a year and a bit.
Oh wow, so you've really been like, you've really been fucking stuck on the hip since then. Shit.
Yeah, literally, we haven't lived apart. I think the longest we've spent apart since being together was probably when we were in Dubai. Actually, he flew home for like 4 days when we went out there first. I think that was the longest we've been apart.
No way.
For the whole
and obviously it's been like, you kind of touch back on like, you couldn't be like, you didn't see yourself being in a relationship with another kind of bodybuilder, because obviously we know what it's like when you prep, and even 24/7, like we don't switch off. It's like a full-time job sort of thing.
Yeah.
And what's obviously been amazing over that time period is obviously he competed first, right? He went like, because I know you went with him to a couple of shows in Europe, right, and things like that.
No, so when we got together, he was planning to do the Spanish show, which was actually during COVID. It was like the championships or something. There was a pro show there.
Yeah.
And he did do that. Sorry, he did do that show, but it just was not the right time. He had actually gotten injured. He had hurt his knee. And it was just a bit of a mess. So he didn't do after that. The next time we prepped was actually when he did Poland just past, and I had done a show as well last year. Coming into, I think it was November. So we had both prepped together for that season, and we had both just done one show. And then this year I prepped on my own, and then obviously, last year, and then this year he's going he's going to prep, so we're doing it separately now.
Yeah,
But
amazing.
going straight into relationships, straight into prep together, that was a fun time.
How did you find it? Like, was it like kind of, I guess, because when you're early on in a relationship as well, it's kind of like you're the honeymoon phase, but obviously prep in between that's a bit different. Like, how did you find it? How was it? Because it's obviously like, it's absolutely fine, because obviously you got into your whole prep season. He's been incredibly supportive through that and stuff. Like, how was it that first time round?
To be honest, it was fine. We actually thought it was better that we were prepping together, because when it got to the end and we were both a little bit dead, I feel like we kind of, in a way, bounce off each other, because John is very, coming off like the back of like going out of my own and started my own business, etc. I was very much an anxious person, and I needed very much, I know you speak about it a bit, like with routine, you need it, and everything has to be like, I was very much like, this has to be this way, and I train at this time, I work at this time, and it was just very much a routine. And although John is like, he does still have his routine, but he is very, very chill.
Very chill.
And in a way it kind of worked, because I kind of bounced off him in the way that gave him that bit of routine he bloody needed. And he bounced off me to allow me to be a little bit more, he's like, chilled. So in a way it worked. Obviously that competing season didn't go the best for me. I had a few health issues and things, so it was a bit of it was very emotional prep, because I was just all over the place, and he was always there to support me, like throughout the whole thing, no matter how I was going. So it is, I know, I wish I could say it was very hard and I could give a bit of a drama to it, but it was absolutely fine, and the same with this year. Obviously it is a little bit hard with me prepping, and it was a very long prep, and obviously it was hard for him, like we weren't able to do as much together, and those days that I was dead and things, and he obviously wasn't, but it was fine. He completely understands. And as I said, as you said before, I was very afraid to get in a relationship with a bodybuilder as such, but it doesn't seem the same. As I said, I've been in relationships before, a relationship before with a bodybuilder as such, and it comparing that, as I said, John's just very chill. And although he is a pro, he's put in the work, he trains pretty hard, he eats and things, but it's he has that chill side to him too, and he's very caring as such. He cares about my goals as much as he does his own, so it works.
Yeah, no, and it's very clear as well. And I think sometimes we always forget, like, kind of like when we go back to be like, we're so irrelevant in this world, right? And sometimes preps are a bit like that. So if he's like, right, you got to do what you got to do for 6 months, but if he sees you in your like together forever, right? So I'm like,
exactly,
what's 6 months out the rest of our lives? Like, fucking crack on. I'll come with you wherever you go, and let's go. It's cool. 6 months, I can suck it up. And vice versa. You're swapping roles for 2023 as well.
Yeah,
like you say, it's like, it's only going to be from like, all right, he starts prepping, I don't know, January, and
probably should be now.
Yeah.
But he hasn't yet. He's 18
it's fine.
weeks out.
How many weeks?
18.
We'll give him another 2 weeks. 16
yeah,
to start.
I'll be on.
But that's the thing as well, like, because you're like, well, it's only 16 weeks. And
no, exactly.
And I think it's just looking at things in that time frame, because it's like, if that's your forever person, it's like, what is it? Like, of course you'll sacrifice everything for them, because their success is your success.
Yeah, you don't even think twice about it, really. You don't think, oh God, now he's going to prep, or he never thought. That's exactly what he said to me. It's so, I support you, like whatever we do, you need to be able to support each other. And if you're going to sit back and be like, I hate what you do, it's never going to work. It's not. So yeah, it never really phases us. It is what we do. It's what he does, it's what I do. We kind of both have very similar goals, if it's competing, if it's business, etc. So it works in that way, that you kind of just understand more than anything.
Yeah, I said this too. Did I say it? I said it on like I don't know what it was. I think I might have said it to a client or like on a call or something like that. And I think when people look at our lives, they see it as like, oh, it seems all pretty like straightforward. They just go to the gym midday and things like that. And I always kind of break it down. I'm like, I know that you're very much a morning person. You do a lot of your client work and things like that in the morning. Then you go and train at kind of that mid-morning sort of time period. Like, the way that people don't see it is that actually, like, the gym is our office, and it's like your guys' office. That's the way. So like, when people go to work, I'm like, yeah, we go to work because the gym is our office, and vice versa. You have to do all this client work. So when people kind of just look at people's lives, it's just that assuming thing.
Yeah. And I think it's very easy. Sorry. I think it's very easy to look at our lives and be like, that's the best life ever. You live in Dubai, you get to travel. But honestly, I've worked more now than I did when I was in my job. Doing that 9 to 5, I even did preps in that, and it was easier because you go in and you do your work, and yeah, you might be a little bit dead, but you're getting your work done. And when that 5 o'clock hits, you're going to the gym, you're doing whatever. You don't even have to think about it. Whereas now it's very much like, you know, it's constant. It's constant, and if you let it and never take a break, it will bloody consume you and it become too much. So it's trying to, it is, you know, as much as, you know, you said you can look at our lives and think so easy, and we absolutely love what we do, and that's why we're so happy to work those extra hours. But it's not all, you know, plain sailing. It's not just, you know, you have the best life. Like, you're lucky, you're not. You worked for it, you know. And it's not, it's just as easy as looking back and looking at us and thinking, oh, they're just traveling the world and having the best time. There's definitely a lot of work behind the scenes to make it happen.
God, yeah. I think when it's your own brand and your own business and everything along those lines, it's your baby. Like, you, and I think as well, people are just like, oh, do you just coach? I'm like, no, because like that one morning you're a coach, and then the next afternoon you're a marketing person, and then the next day you have to be a psychologist, and then the next second you have to be a copywriter because you have to write all these text out for emails and all this sort of stuff. Like, you have to wear all these hats.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just a never ending process. And also it's like that harsh thing. I'm like, you have to take full responsibility of everything. Like, if things don't go to plan or you haven't got any money for food, that's your fault. That's your responsibility.
Exactly. And it just kind of like, to be honest, over the last kind of few weeks, I'd even said it to John, you know, there's a lot of personal things going on. I got quite ill the last few weeks. I think I've bloody everything the UK could give me in terms of like strep, stomach bug, chest infection, got it all. And in that time, I just really needed to step back and kind of like just get better and just kind of take a step back. And then like in those moments, you kind of think it's like, you can't do that because everything relies on you. You rely on you, and like, you know, it's constant, and you have to put in the work, or else, you know, you're in charge of yourself in that way. Sorry,
I think it's nice as well, like, because I think that's the nice thing about sometimes seeing you guys as well, is that John is very chilled. He's very good at the switch. He's known, like, I'm gonna fucking chill. Like, he can just switch it, I think. I think for you, I don't know, like, if this is accurate or not, but it's like, you're very much like you said, like, you would be like, if you didn't have him, you would just keep working all night. You wouldn't take a downtime. You wouldn't take a step back and to give yourself permission to rest. He was probably the first one over those last few weeks being like, Hannah, you need to like not train, you need to chill, you need to just put your feet up and relax, and like, don't worry if you don't reply to people in the first 2 hours.
Exactly. And he always puts that kind of level on it. Like, you know, before I was with him, if you ask my family and my brother, my sister, my dad, they'd be like, Hannah is a very anxious person, you know. She has to have things her way, not have my way, but, you know, have my routine,
has to be in control, sort of thing.
In control. Exactly. I always have to be in control. And like, since being with John, I know they've seen how I am now, you know, they kind of see wouldn't say the old me, but a very more, you know, I think that kind of control thing only kind of came up, obviously, you know, kind of was always through my life, but when I kind of left my job, I was very, you know, it was very much there. And now they kind of like they've said it, you know, she's much more chill and open, and, you know, and in a good way. I think, you know, it's not
100%. That can never be a negative thing, is it? Also, as well, it's like when you spent a year and a half with someone full on, like, number one, you're a year and a half more grown up. You've learned a lot over that last year and a half, and you learn so much about an individual, and you take things from them, like you say, like, oh, that's a really good area of him that I really like, so I'm gonna take that kind of area as well, and vice versa. Like, he's like, oh, I should probably, you know, I should probably get up half an hour earlier, I should probably just be a bit more routine and regimented, and he gets that from you.
We've definitely kind of found the balance, you know. I rub off on him and he rubs off on me, in a good way, you know. So I think that's why it works, because if we were both the same as I am, it wouldn't work.
So you would have moved in together and be like, nah, this is done in 2 weeks time.
Literally.
I guess what's quite nice is obviously being really early in January, I guess, kind of like reflecting on your kind of 2022, which is always nice. Like, how was it? Like, what were kind of some of the things that you learned about yourself, maybe, and things that you want to kind of implement maybe better or tweak going into this year, sort of thing?
Like, as we just spoke about, I think the biggest thing was, you know, this year was kind of the first year I probably spent with John, and like the things like being able to pull back and rest, like being in Dubai for the year, I think it's very much work focused. It's like everyone's work. And learning to like pull back, if that was like literally things like a weekend day in the beach club or going out for a meal and things like that, learning to reset was what pushed us forward, you know, because it is a lot of work. And unless you actually pull back and reset, and as I said, if that's just issue lying by the pool or things like that, and taking a little bit of time, it was always something I was afraid to do. But that's definitely something I've taken, that's what pushed me forward. And you know, if you took a Sunday of chill and go into Monday, you're so ready for it, you know.
Yeah.
But if you never pull back, that was one thing, like I definitely learned that it's just becomes draining over everything. That's definitely one big thing I'd take from this year. I'm trying to think what else I'd take from the year.
I guess what's nice is obviously I'll ask it because obviously I watched you prep and we were prepping at similar kind of crossover periods. What was different with this prep? Because obviously the last one was a bit different, I guess, right? Because you got health issues. There's not much you can do about that. But how was this prep? And I guess what have you learned from the last prep compared to the one where you had some health issues?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that you genuinely have to love what you do. You have to love the prep. You have to love all of it because it's bloody hard. And last year, I think definitely taught me that. Like I went into that prep, it was a bit of a mess before it. I was prepping for quite some time. Like I was prepping when it was in Marbella, and then I came back, and then I'd actually swapped coaches, and going on from that, then realizing 4 weeks out, I think I got bloods done and realized that my health just wasn't in the best place, and I should have just called it then, because my body just was not responding, and I just was not happy with how I was looking. I was like, you know, it genuinely went, and then I was just stressed out, and the stress affected me. And I got to the end of the prep, I was like, this isn't even me, you know. And it really, really got to me, to the point that after that prep, I went to Dubai, and I was thinking, is this for me? Like, am I done? Because the year before I had such a great, I think, no, 2019, I had such a great year competing. I won the Amateur Olympia in Portugal. I had, you know, and I was under Josh McHale, who's my current coach. And I actually spent the year after not with him. And that was the year that I just realized you need to love what you do, because I kind of went a little bit of a different route. I got offered a really good opportunity with an American coach who had Miss Olympia at the time, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. Went out to America, trained, you know, in that environment, but it just wasn't what I loved. It wasn't what I loved about training. It wasn't what I loved about prep, you know. And then that kind of carried through the year, and I got to the other side of that prep, and I was like, I don't know if this is really what I really like doing, you know. Is it for me anymore? And it really got to me, because when I started competing, it was everything to me. It was absolutely bloody everything. I was in college, like getting up at 4 a.m. to get my cardio done and working all day, and then going to train like on very little. I was prepping at the time and very little food, and like it was everything to me. And then to have that last year, it really knocked me. It really did, because I just thought, am I done? Am I done? And this year was definitely, over everything, was about, you know, finding that love again and making sure it was back to where it was. So I was obviously working with Josh McHale again, going into this prep, and it was that over everything, because I just really enjoyed the prep. Although it was long, I had to drop a lot of weight throughout the prep, but at no point was I was like, you know, at no point did I say this isn't for me. I really loved it, and that comes down to who you're around. You know, I had John around me, I had Josh behind me. We had like kind of the team he has as well, and it was just, I loved it. You know, I absolutely loved it, and it just brought, you know, although the season I wouldn't say it didn't end how I wanted it to, because it did. You know, I got up on that stage and I wanted to be there. Yeah. And that was what this season was about to me. You know, I kind of knew going into it, maybe I still don't have the size that I want, but am I going to go through all of it again to get back up there and maybe have the size and still not be happy up there, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what this prep was about, you know, and it definitely confirmed it's what I want to do, and which means taking a year out now. I think you're doing the same, are you?
Yeah. No, but honestly, like I love that, because that was exactly the same reason. Yeah. Like the last time I was on stage, it was like a junior, and it was just shit. I was in London, and that was the year that I was just, I don't know. I don't think I was ever me the whole time. I was trying to build this London personal trainer, whoever I thought, like, you need to be this person because this person's what gets successful.
Yeah, and you need to compete, and you need to like be the PT, and
yeah, exactly. And then I was like, I just did that prep, and I was just like, I just remember finishing it and just like, you just tears for weeks, months, and just questioning everything. I'm like, why am I in the industry? Like, what am I doing? And it took me 3 years to be like, okay, let me try this again. And that was this year, like, or the last year just gone. And I was like, the prep just felt smooth. Like, yeah, it was shit at times. Of course it was.
Yeah, of course.
But like, it was smooth, and I fucking enjoyed every second of it. And I was
and
like,
that's
like, you just need that fire relit. And I'm like you say, like, gaining more size, that's easy. Just give me time.
Yeah, exactly.
But to bring back that fire and the love for what we do every day, I think that's the harsh thing. When you have those times, you're like, oh my God, like, I do this as a job and I can't do my job.
Yeah. And like, as I said as well, you have to love it, because the sport has grown so much. And it's like, if you're just doing it to maybe get a pro card or get on an Olympia stage, as some people have never competed and say, I want to get on an Olympia stage, you're at a dead end, because you might never get there. And,
and the chances are you probably weren't, not to be harsh.
Getting on that Olympia stage, or even getting a pro card now, although there's so many going, you might never do it. And like, if that is your sole focus and the only reason you're doing it, what is the point? Because as like John has, I think he said it in the podcast he did with you, a pro card changes nothing. It really doesn't. It's a card. So many people have a pro card now, and unless you genuinely enjoy it and are doing it for you because you love doing it, it means nothing.
100%. I could turn around and say like, oh, Hannah, like, like, cool. If you have this many clients you probably work with and you're earning X amount of money, you'll be happy. And you're like, yeah, I would be. And I'm like, okay, cool. You're doing that now. Do you feel any happier? Like, no. Exactly. So like you say, it's just like, you need to, I think anything, I'm not going to say you need to love training every single day. Like, you don't need to love what you do every single day. Because like, I would say 80-90% of the time I love it. 10% of the time I don't want to get up. like this. Exactly. But it's just, there's that thing in your gut that's always burning, that fire. And I don't know what it is. I don't know why we keep striving for more. I do not know some days, but it is just the love of just getting up every day and just trying to be better at what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's cool. And I guess kind of coming towards the end of everything, like plans for this year. Obviously, like it's the 4th of January. What are we doing this year? What have you guys got planned and things like that?
So we've actually, as I was saying, we're staying here for John's prep. So we've just rented apartment. We're going to move in there until he's kind of done competing. If that's the end of the year, if that's midway, we'll kind of see from there. But and obviously, as I said, I'm taking the full year off to grow. I actually put up a post about it yesterday. I never feel like I've taken a proper year structured, obviously with COVID and moving and the whole everything I've just gone through. There's never been a proper structured off season, so I'm happy to kind of be here and give that absolutely everything, be able to support John and his prep, and be able to give business everything. I want to keep growing that and just doing what I love. That's kind of the main goal. I don't like to, I wouldn't say I'm setting, New Year's resolutions or anything, but like the goal is just to kind of build on what you've done each year, build on, it's obviously like in competing in business, and you just want to always improve. And that's the goal every year.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess, it's gone. I had a really good question, but it's gone. Where are you based? Where are you basing yourself in the UK at the moment?
Essex.
Okay,
so London.
Yeah, perfect. No, sick. What gym is it you guys are basing out of?
So we've been in a few gyms at the moment, between Ripped Gym and Stackhouse Gym, but where we're moving is actually, we picked the place because it's close to, it's not a new gym, it's called Factory Gym in Witten. It's a very good gym. They've kind of, it's not new, but they've taken new ownership and there's lots of new equipment, nice. All the stuff we love to see, like very much like Prime and, Atlantis, all that kind of thing. So we've actually got the apartment up that way just to be close to that gym and train where John's prepping me. So perfect. Soon there will be normality.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely something I think as well, especially like, because obviously you've been here and then you were basing yourself in Spain for quite a bit of time. I think it'll be really nice for you just to be like, this is home for the next year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like the next, and at least 8 months, at least 8 months, which will be lovely.
I am excited for that, just to kind of feel a bit settled for a little bit of time.
And especially just give you somewhere you can call home, and you can like, especially in an off season, there's no, this from like off season and prep. I'm like, if you can have a really fucking strict off season and be in prep mode for the next 6 to 8 months, the progress you'll make in that 6 to 8 months is going to be more than you can make in a sporadic year sort of thing.
Exactly. And that's why I'm excited that John is prepping in that time as well, because he'll be very much on it, so it can allow me to not get in trouble for giving my Aussies and everything, because he goes, chill out.
And that's the best thing, because then you're like, oh shit, like sometimes it's like, I'll just have an off-plan meal here because I can.
Yeah.
He'll be like, and you'll be like, oh, I won't because he's not, sort of, do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. Exactly. So you'll just be like, it'll be just like, an off season normally is like 80%. You'll just be at 90% now.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely amazing. No, honestly, Han, thank you so much for your time. And obviously, I know loads of people are going to get a lot from this, from just actually, I think for me, it's just grabbing your balls. I think that's a great way to sum you up. You kind of just grab your balls and you kind of just go and you just listen to your gut and you take action, like what will make you happy. And I think a lot of people will take a lot from this as well, which is amazing. There is a little bit of a tradition with this podcast, obviously it being the 1%. What is that one piece of advice, that 1% that you would give someone advice for so they can go one step further forward tomorrow?
So you probably get the same answers all the time, and I haven't listened back, so it's probably something you've been given before. But I think, like, just if you listen to this whole podcast, the biggest piece of advice that you probably take from that is just don't be afraid to fail, because I think failure teaches you a lot. And when you fail, people don't do things that they really want to know that'll make them happy, because they're, it's what if I fail? What if it goes wrong? And it's like, so what if it goes wrong? Sometimes it takes to fail and hit that maybe rock bottom point to realize that it's not all that scary down there. You can always get back from it. Once you've hit it once, you stop fearing it, and then you just go after anything that you want to achieve or do. If that's, something to do with business, if it's competing, if it's anything in life, just don't be afraid to fail. Just do it. And what if you fail? So what?
So yeah, exactly. Especially for people, I think our age. I think if you're under the age of like 35, like our parents are at a point where they were the parents that got married, had the house, all this sort of stuff. So I'm like, if everything fucks up, I can just go back to my mum's.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's the best thing. Like, if you're under the age of 35, you can go home to your parents and you can hold your head up with pride because at least you fucking tried.
Yeah. And how many people, who've gone after what they wanted, like you, like me, or anything, have ever ended up, maybe you do it for a little period of time between what you're doing, but how many people have ended up back at home, back to something they don't want to do because they failed? Very few people, because you're chasing what makes you happy. And if you're chasing what makes you happy, you're going to keep pushing, you're going to give it everything. And generally when you give something everything, you're not going to fail. And if you do, you're able to get back from it. So
I love it. Absolutely love it. And if anyone wants to stalk you, follow your journey for the next kind of year plus, where's the best way to kind of get hold of you and things like that?
That's probably everyone. Instagram, the home of everything. So it's Hannah_she physique. So that's my business name. And I kind of just post about obviously my journey with business as well, that kind of thing. So definitely follow me on there.
Awesome, guys. Absolutely amazing. I will tag Hannah's Instagram on the YouTube and the audio version. That'll all be in the description box below. So go check her out. Honestly, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully I'll cross paths with you this summer in the US, which will be fun.
Really? Amazing.
I'm going to go out for 3 months. So
okay. Oh wow. Okay.
I don't want to stay in the heat. So I'm like,
get out there. Definitely.
So thank you so much, and I really appreciate it.
And thank you for having me on. Thoroughly enjoyed it.